What is up, everybody? This is Jake again with the CodeDuck Bookduck channel. So what I'm doing today, this is my newbie tag video for Booktube. Thank you, Booktube, for doing this, kind of getting these people together, getting YouTubers together to do what we love to do ultimately, which is talk about the things that we love, talk about books. So this is my newbie video. Welcome, by the way, if you're new. This channel is basically going to be dedicated to learning in a way. So we're going to have stuff for Booktube, we're going to have code tutorials, we're going to have writing tutorials. I'm a software engineer by trade, and I love to write. I'm actually writing on Wattpad right now, writing a debut novel, and that link will be in the description. So basically what this channel is going to be is it's going to be a lot of kind of the stuff that we like, geeky stuff, nerd culture, books, videos, video games, code, technology, and I'm really excited to do it. So with that in mind, we're going to go over the questions that Booktube has had us answer, and we're going to start with number one. Why did you start this channel? Well, I started this channel because YouTube, I was actually really late to YouTube. I didn't actually consider it a content source of things to watch until maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, when my wife actually stumbled upon the Eat Your Kimchi channel. We love Simon and Martina's content. We loved their stuff. We followed them all throughout Seoul and South Korea, and even now that they're in Japan. We identified hugely with them because of the things that they go through. We found ourselves very much like them. I deal very much with chronic pain and invisible illness and health illness, and I'm autistic, so you know, there's a lot of things that I can relate to with, you know, those two. So, of course, Simon and Martina see this video. Hi, we love you. My wife and I absolutely love that channel. And that really got me into YouTube. And I always wanted to kind of get out there and do it. And I felt that the thing for me that was really difficult is that I'm really great at talking to folks when I know they want to talk to me. But other than that, I'm kind of introverted, and I'm very gregarious when I'm around people that I know. And it was really an idea of wanting to come out of my shell. And I struggle with imposter syndrome big time. For those of you who don't know me personally, again, I'm a self-taught software engineer. I write up a lot of like automation code, and we're going to show a lot of that stuff on this channel. But I do a lot of software stuff, and I'm completely self-taught in pretty much every discipline that I have. And that comes with, you don't have the paper on the wall signed by the dean, right? So yeah, I guess you could say this channel is mostly about validation, but it's actually not. It's not. It's more about getting out there and sharing my unique perspective, my unique look at things. A lot of times when I even talk to other professionals in the fields that I deal with, you know, I find that I have opinions on things that they never even thought of. And I find that because I look at things kind of like 10 degrees off angle, where most things are on center, I really think that that adds a lot of value, especially in my thoughts of books and culture and literature and art, technology. I want to share my perspective with you guys. I want to make things easier for you guys. Hold on, gotta go up. It's like telescoping office chairs. So I want to share that with you guys. I want to be a part of that. I do write a blog on the website, dev.to. I am published on Medium in like data science and code. If you want to check that stuff out, again, it's in the description. But also one of my greatest loves, I'll be willing to write anything. I write poetry, I write prose, and I write code. So I really started this channel to kind of get out of my shell, to just finally do it. I've been talking about doing a YouTube channel for years and years. And then my friend Kyle over at Project Kyle, a link to his videos will also be in the description. I'm going to have a lot of stuff in the description, guys. This is Project Kyle, my Wattpad stuff, my dev.to, my Medium, all these things. He finally just reached out. I just commented on one of his Twitter posts. He's a really good friend of mine in real life. We kind of grew up together. And, you know, he said, well, if you ever start a Booktube channel, let me know. And I said, you know what? Now's the time to do it. Now is the time to do it. So I'm taking the leap, getting in there. I'm really hoping that I can kind of connect with a lot of you guys and share a lot of stories and a lot of things that I go through as somebody who's got an alternative wiring, deals with invisible illness, who's also trying to just like make it through everyday life. And also talk about fun stuff, because I think you'll realize that I'm a real goofball. I'm a real weirdo. So that's going to be entertaining. I really think it will. And then question 2, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? Perspective. Oh, perspective. That weird angle that's just really hard for people to understand. I think I'm so capable of bringing that to Booktube, of making light of things, of bringing comedy to it, of talking character development and getting into the heads of people and things, and really learning why characters do stuff, or why books are written the way they are. And I'm also not afraid to say when a book everyone likes is terrible. I think I'm really honest. You'll find I'm the worst liar in the history of the world. I stink at lying. So I'm going to just say exactly what I think, and I will give you a constructive argument as to why. I'm also really accepting. Like, I'm not out to judge people. I'm not a troll. For me, it's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. You disagree with me, that's cool. I mean, you have every right to do that. I have a right to disagree with you. And I honestly think that I can inspire constructive conversation and really just talk back and forth about stuff, bring the goofiness to it and the weirdness to it, and we're all going to have a lot of fun with it. So I really look forward to that. What are you most excited for this new channel? Well, okay, I've already gone over that, but I'm excited to contact with you guys, to get in touch with people, like-minded individuals, to share my views on things, to hear your views on things, because ultimately I feel that if I only have my opinion on something, then I am deficiently lacking. I need to hear what other people think. I need all sides of the argument, because I think we can only really grow if we're willing to have open conversation with each other. I really feel that just like me talking at you or you talking at me is not going to get anywhere with anything. It's just going to divide people. So I'm really just having conversations. I'm excited to have conversations with people, hear different perspectives, to hear your stories, right, from other booktubers. I'm excited to hear how they got into it, what they're doing, how they're doing. Seeing the passion of people is just really exciting to me, and then sharing my passions with you. Question 4, why do you love reading? Oh, wow. I love reading because I leave. I go where the author has made. I think what I love most about reading is that an author will create a world. Now, even if we're talking historical fiction or historical reference or even nonfiction, ultimately, the chances that you've actually been physically to the locale, you've physically met the people that are mentioned, is very slim. So you're going to a different place, you're going in a different time, you're going to meet different people. The values are different, the culture is different, everything's different, and you get to absorb that from a first-person perspective, which I think is just awesome. I love it so much for that reason, is that you can experience something that you couldn't experience otherwise, or it would be really difficult to experience otherwise, or you'd watch the show and it would be subject to the interpretation of the director. I think what's great about books is that it's subject to the interpretation of everybody who reads it. So it's not like if you're watching a film adaptation that you have to just kind of go along with whatever the director thinks is happening in the pages of that book, whereas when you read it for yourself, you can really just immerse yourself in it and become a part of that, and it becomes a part of you in turn. Question 5, what book or series got you into reading? That would be The Lord of the Rings. I love everything Tolkien. I'm huge into J.R.R. Tolkien. I've read The Silmarillion more times than I care to admit. I've read The Children of Húrin, The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. I have a Tolkien companion behind this camera right here.
Well, I'm certain at this point you guys have all gotten that I love Tolkien novels, and, I'm pretty sure we've gotten that point across. I think we can move on. And what is it that I'm even doing here? Is that, like, the lamest gang sign ever, or what? Oh, man, I don't even like this still frame, so let's just move on quicker rather than later.
Question 6, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? Well, honestly, my favorite at this point would have to be Project Kyle, because I know him. He's a really good friend of mine to begin with. And I guess if I was going to ask you one thing, Kyle, it would be, how in the world did you get started in all this? Me and Kyle, moved away from each other for a while and then, got back in touch, maybe 6 months ago. And he's, a published author now, and he's on YouTube, all this crazy stuff. When did this happen? How did that happen? And how did you get started, and how did you kind of get the ball rolling with all this? How did you maintain consistency? That's a huge thing for me, as I have such a hard time maintaining consistency. So PK, you got to tell me that one, man, because I have no idea how to do it, and I'm just going to try to bring this forth as best I can. I'm, again, planning on uploading probably once a week. I'd say maybe every Wednesday. So that would probably be my schedule. I'd like to say once a week. Maybe if we get some different types of content going on, like code tutorials, maybe do one video per category for a week. So, on Wednesday, we'd have a booktube, and then on Friday, we'd have like a Python tutorial or a data science tutorial, something like that. Or then we do, like a character building workshop or something. But Kyle, I don't know how you just threw all this together in like 6 months. It's just like goes from the kid that I know that's like painting and doing random stuff, and now he's just like a published author, which I think is just hilarious. And I think it's congratulations to you, bud. I love that so much. Great for you, but you got to help me get there too, because I have no clue how to do it. Question 7. What challenges do you think starting a Booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I've touched on it a second ago. Consistency. Consistency. That is so hard for me. Harder even than it was to say consistency over and over like that. That close together. That was the tongue twister. Just getting consistent, time management, finding time. I'm a business owner outside of this. My wife and I, we build software, so this is something that's going to be a definite, pet project and a love project, but consistency is going to be huge in starting this. And then when did you start reading? I started reading probably when I was like 11 or 12. That was kind of when I started to blossom a little bit, like brain-wise. Before that, I kind of just had a really hard time getting my head around the world as it was, because again, as a young child with autism, it was really hard for me to understand what was going on around me. And anyway, that'll be another video in itself, but I didn't start reading until I was maybe like 11 years old. That was when I really started getting into it, when I realized that I could escape from the world that I didn't understand, from the rules that didn't make sense, and put myself into a place that had things that were more realistic to me, or where I could kind of control the ebb and the flow of things myself. Where do you read? I live in Maine, so Maine is cold like 351 days a year. It's just winter all the time. So I typically read either in my office, like where I am right now. I read in here, or anywhere that is really comfortable. Again, I deal with some chronic pain issues, so it's really hard for me to get like my hips comfortable, my shoulders comfortable. Sometimes my shoulder will dislocate, so it's really hard for me to get comfortable. So I really just have to. Usually, I'm like upside down on my couch with my feet in the air, which is my best place to read, really. And then 10. What kind of books do you like to read? Oh dear. If you couldn't tell what got me in was fantasy, I am a fantasy junkie. I love anything sci-fi fantasy related. I prefer kind of the more young adult fantasy and, the moderate kind of adult fantasy, only because I think it's a whole lot harder to make a book interesting when it's not like a Song of Ice and Fire. Everybody watches Game of Thrones, and Game of Thrones is just basically... I think George R.R. Martin, when he wrote those books, I've never read them, but I've talked to people who have, and the reason I haven't read them is because I think using like excessive violence and graphic descriptions of death and sex and things like that, I think that's a really lazy way to move a story. I think it's really just kind of gimme window dressing. And I feel like if you have to not only make it interesting but keep it clean, that is a lot more difficult. And I appreciate that style a whole lot more. So I love fantasy books. My favorite books in the world are this one right here, Fellowship of the Ring. This was a phenomenal series as well, which is The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. And then my jam right now when it comes to reading, I just finished Oathbringer, which is the third book in the Stormlight archive by Brandon Sanderson. I had read Brandon Sanderson's work before. I read the Mistborn trilogy. I didn't care for it, but when I saw The Way of Kings on a shelf not too long ago, I was like, I gotta give this a shot, because I find any book that can be a tome, unless it's by L.E. Modisette Jr., typically is pretty good, especially if it's published by Tor as well. So I gave it a shot. I absolutely adored it. And then, of course, when Words of Radiance came out, I was like first in line to get that. And then I used the fabulous Cloud Library app, which if you don't have Cloud Library, I'm going to do a video about it next week. It's basically a way to get ebooks from your library for free just for having a library card. Libraries are still relevant. Don't pretend they're not. I think I read Oathbringer in like 4 days, and it was like a 1,300-page book. I just devoured it. It was excellent. So I love fantasy, but I love fantasy that kind of deviates a little bit from the sword and sorcery stuff. Like, I really appreciated what Sanderson was trying to do with the Mistborn trilogy with allomancy. I think it was interesting, but I ultimately think that once you lost one of the main characters, it kind of like, it's kind of like losing Cade Six in Destiny. You're kind of just like, now I don't like it as much. You lose the lovable rogue, and I think if you're going to kill off a main character, it just can't be that way. I'm a huge fan of Wattpad. I love reading the Dragon Riders Elements. That's an excellent. There's a Wattpadder that does that. It's excellent. I loved the Aragon series up until Eldest and Brissinger. I wasn't a huge fan of. I think I got bored with that because I think Christopher Paolini kind of was phoning it in for the last two, and I didn't even bother reading the conclusion of it because I disliked Brissinger so bad. But I love the idea of, intelligent dragons, not just like the Beowulf style dragon or like the Smaug style one, but intelligent, benevolent sometimes as well. So I'm a huge fantasy junkie. I love dragons. Of course, the Summer Dragon, also, I think it's by Todd Lockwood, is fantastic. It's a fantastic debut novel. It kind of takes like Dragon Riders of Pern and Aragon and puts them together a little bit with a lot of mayhem, it's clean mayhem though. I really enjoyed it. I'm eagerly awaiting his next book, as well as I love steampunk novels as well. Another great debut novel in a series, or debut series novel, was The Aeronauts Windlass by Jim Butcher, who's famous, of course, for the Dresden Files, but that is like a dystopian steampunk kind of thing going on, and it's excellent. I would recommend that as well. So I'm a huge fantasy junkie, but I'll honestly read anything. But I prefer fantasy only because I can go away and I can go where I want to be and walk around that world. And honestly, it helps me to build the world that I love so much that I am building right now. So that is the 10 questions. I have completed my rookie, my newbie, my probie video for Booktube. Thank you so much, Booktube, for accepting those of us that are just too nerdy to function and too book-loving to get along in life. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And you guys stick around if you like this kind of content, you like this setting where it's just me kind of talking. I have one other video up right now. I'm going to be posting more a lot, once or twice a week. And obviously, hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell if you want new notifications. Give this video a like and a thumbs up if you think other people would like this kind of content. And I really look forward to seeing and hearing from you guys in the next video. Thank you so much. This is Jake the CodeDuck signing.